All right, everybody. Terry Daniel here, voice actor and coach. We are ready for the class, or we will be just in a couple seconds. Somebody needed an extra minute to get into the class, so we will allow that to happen. Hey, and everybody can see the screen okay. Everybody can hear me okay. We'll get started here. Let's give it like a minute here. Okay, thanks everybody. Perfect. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, everybody else who said yes on the audio check. All right, well, why don't we get started here? All right, my demo is done. Now what? That's the theme of the class. This is really for ideas on what you can do while you're waiting for your demo, while you're studying up to the point where we record your demo, and then let's say you already recorded it and you're just waiting for yours truly to produce, mix, master it. There's plenty of things you can do while you're waiting for the demo, and I want to go over a few of those first. And let's get to this here. Here we go. So what should I do while I wait for my demo? Here's a checklist. By the way, this particular screenshot, this PDF that you're looking at right now, is attached to the GoToWebinar widget. So you can actually download it, print it, and keep it in your office or your home studio. It's a nice little checklist. I'm not going to go into a hell of a lot of detail per bullet point here, but we will be going through a lot of this stuff during the course of the class. But there's some things you can be working on, like your recording space, learning how to record and use editing software. As you know, those of you that have taken our full like beginners type courses, many of you have already met with Jan Anderson, who's very good at helping you set up your recording space. If you've not had that session yet and you're just getting started, that will be definitely on the horizon as part of this course. Also registering your business name, talk to a CPA about, what kind of business, if you're going to be an LLC or S Corp. Honestly, during your first year of being in business, being a sole proprietor is probably going to be good enough until you've, accrued enough clients to be able to justify, going LLC, S Corp. Get the logo together for your website. We also help with website design, especially for you big Kahuna members. Choose accounting software, set up your PayPal and banking options. This is all just a really good checklist. Now, if you just got started, I wouldn't really worry about this necessarily today until you've had a few script sessions under your belt. But as we get past the marketing session, the recording, treatment room setup session, and we get closer to doing your demos, this would be a good time to start, doing some of the things that are on the checklist, like research businesses, get the decision maker email address, set up your social media sites, buying your domain. So this is just a simple little meat of this course is all about. And we're going to talk about a lot of that right now. First of all, once you have your I know, yeah, that's true. That my first demo was on a cassette, like you're looking at right now. It was commercial one side, and you turned it around on the other side, and it was a narration demo. That was the way it was back in like 1988, 89. Everything, all the demos was on a cassette. We had to mail things out. We didn't have the internet. So this is how you're looking at what is basically a screenshot photo of what my first demo looked like. But the key is really not to let your demo collect dust. So many people will go through, whether it's our program or a competitor's program or whatnot, they'll go through a flurry of coaching sessions and they'll get a really nice demo produced. And then some people just don't do anything with it. I don't know if it's fear or, fear of failure or whatnot, but you do have to get busy with that demo, send it out, make connections once you have the demo produced. I like to keep things simple. When I first got started, I made it a goal to send it to 10 prospects a week. That could be a talent agent. That could be a production director. That could be a corporation in my neighborhood that does like in-house e-learning for their employees. A lot of corporations have in-house recording studio where they produce a lot of learning material for the employees of that company. I'll give you just a little example. I do all the training modules for Subaru of America. So whether you're on the floor selling cars or you're in the factory making cars, you're still required to put in a a minimal amount of hours every year doing online training. Rules and regulations of the program. There's always something new, and I know they do this at 3M as well, and that is what we call in the business is e-learning. So there's a huge market out there for your voice in doing some of these e-learning type narrations. Start working on a prospect spreadsheet. I like to use Google Docs for that. I'm not a Microsoft fan at all. I hate Excel. My ADD brain just doesn't adapt to it at all. For some reason, the Google stuff, the Google Drive products work really well for me, whether it's a Google Doc or, the kind of the Google version of Excel. Just start a prospect spreadsheet. Keep track of this stuff. Google is your friend. This is where you can find lists of places to send to your demo, whether it's talent agents, which I'm going to show you a couple of directories shortly here, production companies, e-learning, explainer video companies. Google should be your best friend when it comes to that. Also locally, I used to do this way back in the day, and I still do it to a point, but meeting with potential local clients, having coffee, having lunch with maybe somebody who owns an e-learning company. I'm in Minneapolis, so I'll keep using my city for an example. Maybe there's a production company local here that produces e-learning modules for several different businesses. Maybe it's a local talent agent. I met Nuts is the local non-union powerhouse in the Midwest pretty much. And I met with them a couple of times before they signed me on. Maybe it's a small business and you're going to do their IVR. Who knows? But it still works. It's kind of the old school way, but still an important way, meeting with potential local clients in person, starting to build that relationship over a cup of coffee. By the way, the last 10 minutes of this particular class will take some questions from you. This is also being recorded, so if you have to bow out early, this will be uploaded to the private YouTube channel that everybody should have the link for that on Monday, and I'll get you that link again for those of you that that need it again. Let's talk about talent agency because obviously you've heard me talk a little bit about this in our script classes too. There's really two sides of the voiceover business. There's getting booked via a talent agent, where you do have to cough up a 10% commission to them if you get booked through them. But hey, 10%, if you're putting $2,500 in your pocket, happy to pay the 10% to the agent. And it's a good way to get national work as well. And, big time product and business. It's hard to get a commercial for Mountain Dew just by being an independent contractor. That work is going to be more, smaller market commercials, but a ton of corporate training videos, e-learning, medical narration, tons of work to be had via as an independent contractor as well. And of course, the mail has to come right when I'm doing this class. Oh God, it never fails. All right, just ignore the mutts upstairs. Let's talk about talent agencies just for a second here. Actually, hang on one second, guys. I'm going to go throw the dogs in the other room. Sorry about that. 1 second. All right, sorry about that. My wife is out of town today on a photo shoot, so usually when the dog starts barking, she'll throw him in the other room, but not the case today. So talent agencies, let's talk about marketing to talent agencies. And I want to talk a little bit about a talent agency protocol up front. And what this means is once you submit your demo to a talent agent, make sure you follow the protocol on their website. Many of talent agency websites will have a page on their website for new talents. Like, hey, you want to submit to be a part of our agency? This is what you need to do. And that's what you need to pay attention to. Because a lot of people just email. They'll send what we call cold emails with attachments. Talent agencies don't necessarily like attachments. attachment emails. They usually have a form on their website where you can fill out the form, attach the MP3 of your demo, and hit submit. They have certain ways they want demos submitted. Don't stop by the agency in person and hand them a CD of your demo, or even a thumb drive. Like somebody was all excited. They told me they did this the other day, and I'm like, oh yeah, they don't like people just dropping in unannounced. I mean, that would have been maybe a little more acceptable, before the internet was around. But it's really one of the reasons it's really important to listen to the protocol, pay attention to it, because talent agents not only like talents who are going to get booked for work and then that are a good fit for their roster, but they really want talents that are going to pay attention to direction. Because if you pay attention to the protocol, that gives a signal to your talent agent that you're going to be pretty good at taking direction from a client as well, as far as in interpreting and delivering the script the way it needs to be delivered. And it goes a long way, so talent agency protocol, very, very important. Be respectful of their time. Once you submit the demo, don't follow up like the next day wondering if they've had a chance to listen to it. Talent agents aren't real fond of follow-up, to be honest with you. If they feel you're a right fit for their agency, they're going to let you know as soon as possible. They're not going to forget about you. So be respectful of their time. Don't throw a barrage of emails at them. Don't call them every day. There's nothing wrong with following up like maybe a couple of months later if you hadn't heard anything. Hey, just wanted to see if you got the demo. I won't take up too much of your time. And this could be done via email. Talent agents aren't really into phone calls. I know all this sounds kind of weird, but email really does work best when it comes to getting any kind of response from a talent agent. Now, this is really important for everybody on this call today to hear this. It's not Armageddon if you're turned away. That doesn't mean your career is over. It doesn't mean you suck. It doesn't mean that your demo is horrible. It doesn't mean that you have to firebomb Terry Daniel because the demo that he produced wasn't good enough to get on this talent agency roster. It happens to all of us, whether you're brand new or you're like me and have over 2 decades of experience. Guess what? I still get turned down by talent agents. It doesn't mean that you suck necessarily. Maybe you're not the right fit for their roster, or maybe your voice is a little too similar to somebody else on the roster. And it's interesting because you might not be good enough for that talent agency, but maybe a week later you get on a different talent agency roster. I'm currently on 3. It doesn't, again, it's not Armageddon if you're turned away. If they don't feel that you're the right fit, it doesn't mean you're horrible. So don't run off into a corner and feel sorry for yourself and call your friends and sob to your siblings or your spouse how you're a failure and you're not good enough to make it in this industry. That is absolutely not the case. This is a part of business. It will happen. I guarantee it. Your demo could be the best demo ever, and you're still going to get turned down by a talent agency here and there. It's part of the business. Take a look at this. This is Voice Casting Hub. This is a talent agency directory, and it's a great resource for you. Find it online and bookmark it. This has a listing of many, not all of them, but many talent agencies across the country. And it'll have their email, it'll have their website, their phone number, and what we talked about a couple of minutes ago, it will have the protocol on a certain page of the site. So this is called Voice Casting Hub. You can find it at voicecastinghub.com. Bookmark it, and you'll be ready to go. Now, again, some of you just started training with us, and this might be a little overwhelming. Don't worry about any of this, again, until we work on your performance skills. That's why we always do all the script sessions up front, to master your craft, work on your performance, your technique, and that's what all 4 of us coaches are here for. I'm not saying that this class is going to be a waste of your time because you just started. This is very important information, but this is something that we're going to touch base on a one-on-one basis as well. So again, this is a very good agent directory, voicecastinghub.com. Now here is, let's say if there's no protocol to speak of on the actual talent agency website. Then you're like, well, what the hell do I do? I can't find anything on how to submit a demo to this particular talent agent. That's when you go to their info at email address, and that's usually listed somewhere on their website. And then you write an email kind of like this. Good morning. My name is Terry Daniel. I'm a voiceover talent from Minneapolis, and the purpose of this email is to see if your agency is currently accepting new voiceover demos at this time. If so, could you please direct me to the person whose attention the demo would need to be directed? Cheers or sincerely, and then insert your email signature with your name, phone number, website if you have one finished by then, just so they can check out they can check out your demos right on your website too. Notice how brief this is. I didn't go into my life story of how long I wanted to be a voice talent and all this. Don't make it, just keep it very professional and brief. Remember, talent agents, they don't have a very big attention span, and they're always very, very busy, and they're not going to have time to read a 17 paragraph email from you. So keep things very, very brief. You don't have to copy this verbatim, but you can definitely use this as more of a template, and you can personalize your own email to a talent agent. God, is this guy pissed off? And for what? Don't get angry, get motivated. What does that mean? It goes back to what I was talking about a couple of minutes ago with being turned down from a talent agent. That should be more motivating. Don't let it deflate you in any way. Again, it's very realistic. You've heard me talk about this in the script classes as well. Very realistic that you can make a great living without ever getting talent agency representation. 80% of my annual income, you guys, is based on independent contractor work, working with an e-learning company, working with a corporation, aka Subaru of America or 3M or Honeywell locally, which I do independent contractor work. This is voiceover work without the help of a talent agent. This puts you in front of the producer or of the client. There's no middle person involved. This is where you're more in charge of the recording, the editing, the rate negotiation. You're working more business to business. When you're booked through a talent agent, it's great because the agent does all the work, and all you have to do is show up to the gig with the script and ready to go. Your performance at that point is the only thing you should focus on. So it goes back to what I've said 100 times in all these different group classes. There's really two sides of the VO business, the agency side and the independent contractor side. So again, if you get turned down by a talent agent, don't get angry, get motivated. It's no big deal. Trust me. I mean, do we like getting rejection letters? Well, no. I mean, it sucks for about 10 seconds, but then you're like, well, that's just a part of the business. I just have to keep moving forward. Let's talk about these production companies. I touched on it a little bit already, but let's talk about production company protocol. There really isn't one. Talent agents are going to be a little more particular about how they want the demo submitted, when they want you to follow up. It's going to be a little bit more, I can't think of the right word, but production companies are a little looser. You're rarely going to find the protocol to how to submit a demo on a production company website. It's just not really going to happen. In fact, most of the time you're going to have to call the front office and ask to speak to the decision maker. Bullet point number 2, ask to speak to who is the decision maker on hiring the talents for your videos or your e-learning modules. Find out who that decision maker is. Now, following up, if you don't hear anything back, maybe try the production company in a couple of weeks. Talent agents, as I mentioned, should be maybe a couple of months, but production companies, a couple of weeks, and just based on my experience. And this is a little bit long. Since this is kind of an older template, I've shortened it since then, but this is going to be a little bit more, not necessarily the 17 paragraph email that you should definitely avoid at all costs, but you can go into a little bit of your experience in a production company, because it's not that, production companies have so many different divisions and they're not just a talent agent. So I always keep my emails to production companies a little lengthier. I invite them to come to my website. They can click on the link. But yeah, I want to point out something that's important here. With your agreement, this is a very important statement of this email. With your agreement, I would like to send you samples of my demos in MP3 format. If you would like more information and samples, please email or call me at the phone number listed below. You know what? I would, since this is kind of older, I would take that out actually. I will also follow up with you within the next couple of days if you have any questions. Does that sound like a plan? So a couple things that are important here. You're asking them permission to send the demo, and they're going to be very respectful of this. They're going to, they love it that you're asking their permission because, again, even producers don't necessarily like these emails with big attachments to them. Now, the important part of this email is that it's ending as a question. Does that sound like a plan? Now they're going to feel more compelled to answer it. When you say, hey, let me know, have a great day, you're kind of letting this person off the hook. Then they're like, oh, thank God, I really don't have to get back to this person. But ending the email in a question, now they feel compelled to answer it. It's like, oh, well, even if they're not looking for talents at this time, at least they feel more compelled to get back to you. So it's always important to end any type of marketing email with a question. But again, like right here, if you would like more information and samples, please don't ask them to call you. I mean, this is a couple years old now, I have to be honest with this email. And since then, I would just end it on, with your agreement, I would like to send you samples of my demos in MP3 format. This is fine too. I will also follow up with you within the next couple of days if you have any questions. Then they know that a cold call is probably coming in a few days. Does that sound like a plan? And again, this is, this is all great. Definitely good professional email, good information. But the most important line of this entire email is right here. Does that sound like a plan? Ending that email with a question. All right, I've talked about Subaru of America. I've talked about 3M, Honeywell, some local corporations that I do independent contractor work. Let's get to that. Let's go in more detail about that. Media departments and corporations. This is the one thing that a lot of webinars, a lot of voiceover books don't really talk about. They're all kind of agency heavy. Oh, you got to get in with a talent agent and all that's important. But what they're leaving out is media departments and corporations. This is the hottest lead resource that nobody ever mentions. And it's, I get a ton of work this way. Per my bullet point, best lead resource that nobody really talks about. Most corporations, as I mentioned before, have in-house studios, operated by maybe 2 to 3 audiovisual directors in that corporation. That's for Honeywell, or Honeywell is just down the street here. Not Honeywell, but General Mills. General Mills, they make Cheerios and all that kind of good stuff. Unfortunately, I haven't done any national Cheerios commercials, but I have done their in-house training, and they have an in-house studio there. Not a lot of people know that corporations have recording studios right inside the building. And again, we talked about the audiovisual directors. Now, sometimes it can be a little challenging getting through the gatekeeper. They might not deliver the message to the audio visual director during the first phone call. Sometimes you might have to call a couple different times. You might have to sweet talk the gatekeeper just a little bit, and say, I just, or just pretend like you're answering their call. Hey, your audio visual director from your in-house studio gave me a call last Thursday. Can you put me through to them? You might have to, sometimes you have to just kind of play the game just to get through the gatekeeper, especially if it's a very large corporation. But once you get connected to the audiovisual director, the nice thing about audiovisual directors and corporations, they don't have a roster of like 2,000 talents. It's typically like a dozen or so talents that they like to go to when they need voice actors for their projects. They're not going to go to a pay-to-play site to try to find the voice talent. They typically, not all the time, they definitely, some use talent agencies for some of their projects, but more times than not, they like to have their small pool of talent to choose from. They like to keep it simple because they're already very, very busy. They don't have time to go through voice 1, 2, 3, looking for a talent for their project, going through a talent agent. As wonderful as they are, it can be a bit of a process and a little more work than they have time for. Customer service skills. Customer service skills can obviously take you a long way. You don't have to be the perfect voice talent. Clients want to work with talents who are easy to work with. I mentioned this in a YouTube video once when it comes to, like, for example, getting a client on the phone for a consultation. Let's say somebody's made an email inquiry to you or maybe even called you from the phone number listed on your website. Work on being likable. It sounds kind of silly, but get the client on the phone and get them to like you as soon as possible. Shoot the shit with them. Talk about things unrelated to the project. Just a little bit of small talk to get to know the client and get them to like you. Then you should really focus on their business or their product. Ask a ton of questions about their business or product. Don't make it about you. This isn't about you. This is about them. How are you going to help improve their business or move that product? Ask them as many questions as you can about their business, because clients could talk all day long about their business. Trust me, they love it. Clients want to work with talents who are not only easy to work with, but they want to work with talents who are heavily engaged in what they're doing. Again, try to refrain from just talking about yourself for 20 minutes on a consultation with a client. That does not work. Talk about them. This has to be about the customer. All right. So let's talk about, you've got the demo now. Maybe you've had your demo for a year and maybe it's gangbusters. Maybe it isn't. There's a chance that it might not be. Let's talk about when it's time to hit the refresh button on a demo. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If this demo is 3 years old and you're still getting a ton of work from it, there's no real reason to fix it. There's no real reason to do another demo. There really isn't. Occasionally you might have to fix something because some of the copy might be outdated, or maybe that particular maybe you might have a clip on your commercial demo for Toys R Us, which of course is no longer in business. You want to get that off there and replace it with something else. But, in general, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, if it's not working well, then it's time to change it up after a year or less. Either do another demo or just switch some things out, because you want to keep at it, because obviously you want to get auditions and you want to book work. Outdated copy and music. This happens a lot when people send me their demos to review. That's the first thing it's not the first thing I listen for, but it's the first thing I always notice is the music is kind of outdated. I'm like, ooh, this sounds like it was produced about 15 years ago. And why are you talking about the 1994 Audi? Those are things that need to be fixed. And honestly, if it's about 10 or 15 years ago, it likely is time for a new demo anyway. Adding real work. Some of the best demos in like the LA or New York area, people are like, oh my God, these demos are incredible. Guess what? Those are all real spots that they did. Eventually, that's what a demo should be. It should be a portfolio of real work. That's why sometimes I'll get a call from somebody that heard like a big LA agency demo. I want a demo just like this. Well, you're not going to get a demo just like that, because that's the person's real work. It's a good goal to work towards, but for now we got to work on fake material. We got to work on fake commercials so you can get there. But eventually, adding real work to the demo is going to be key. All right, where the hell can I find agencies and production companies? I showed a screenshot of you. I showed a screenshot to you earlier. The Voice Acting Hub website is a great place to go for talent agencies. VoiceCastingHub.com, there it is right there. ProductionHub.com, they have a lot of production companies. And guess what? A lot of medical training companies, a lot of e-learning stuff on there. So check that out, ProductionHub.com. Google, of course, Googling e-learning directories, explainer video companies. Those are words, those are keywords that you can type right into the Google search. And social media sites. Check out, see who has a Facebook business page or on LinkedIn. Those are great places to find talent agencies and production companies. Hell, even Instagram. I know some people can be anti-social media. That doesn't mean you have to use it for personal reasons. But I tell you what, great way to find leads. LinkedIn, incredible place to get in touch with a potential voiceover buyer. LinkedIn and Facebook are my two go-to social media sites for work. I probably get a couple dozen brand new clients every year just based on relationships made from LinkedIn and Facebook, sometimes even Twitter. Doing it the old school way still works. What the hell am I talking about? Postcard campaigns, yes, ladies and gentlemen. Actually sending something in the mail still works. I did a postcard campaign for small businesses in my area within my zip code. It was kind of like Mr. Phone Voice or something. I think that's what I called myself. Do you want your on-hold message to be improved? And I should try to find that. I don't know what the exact spiel was. It was very short. It was basically a deal where I would record their company voicemail for like a couple $100. Could have been less than that. I think it was actually $150. And I made quite a bit of cash flow from this campaign. It wasn't cheap coming up with the postcards, but it more than paid for itself. And I still have 2 or 3 clients that are coming back to me on a regular basis because of that postcard campaign. Something kind of simple, it wasn't anything I was going to send out to big giant, I wasn't going to send a postcard to the Coca-Cola company or Budweiser or Chevrolet. It was small, like ma and pa stores on the corner, small businesses within my area. And of course, cold calls. I have a love-hate relationship with cold calls. I don't know how many people in this class really enjoy it, but it really is a big part of the process. And you do get used to it and you get comfortable with it. I'm not saying you have to make 100 cold calls a week, but cold calls are definitely going to be a part of it. I feel a sneeze coming on. My allergies are horrible this morning, so if you hear me sniffling or doing that, my apologies. And then again, we talked about this earlier, meeting potential clients in person. Definitely. I do this with any type of potential client here in Minneapolis, meeting them in person, over coffee, over lunch, building that relationship brick by brick. Positive things are going to come out of that. Good old-fashioned thank you cards. I'm not talking about these online thank you cards. I find those to be a little impersonal. I'm talking about a handwritten thank you card. Even if you met the potential client in person and they didn't hire you, send them a thank you card anyway. Thank that person for getting together with you. It still works. These are some of the old school ways that still work. We get a little too attached to social media and all these cool online gadgets and programs. And yeah, they work great. I love using them, but the old school way still works. Social media presence, I mentioned it before, even if you don't like it for personal reasons, I think it's very important that you have a Facebook business page, that you're active on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. LinkedIn is terrific because by your profile, whether you comment on somebody's post or you create your own post, it always says what you do for a living. And that's what I love about LinkedIn. Like mine will say Terry Daniel, voice actor, coach, demo producer. It's always listed right by my name, no matter if I'm posting or making a comment on somebody's post. That's really good branding for what we do. That's something that Facebook doesn't do, and I wish they did. Because I really like the way that LinkedIn is laid out. Plus, most talent agents, production companies, explainer video, e-learning companies, you name it, they're all going to have a presence on Facebook or LinkedIn. Not all of them are on Twitter, but most of them will be on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm not saying you have to solicit directly to them immediately, but just at least make the connection, send them a friend request, get connected with them. And maybe you do, maybe you do send them a friend request via LinkedIn, make some comments on some of their posts, you know, say, oh, this is great. Thank you. This really helps, just start building the relationship. Social media marketing. It's an important part of the process today. Again, you don't have to like Facebook. You don't have to be in love with Facebook for personal reasons, but have a business presence. Because if you don't, you're going to be missing out. Because I get a lot of work via social media connections. It's a huge part of my marketing. Oh my God, are we done already? No. Let's go back to my award-winning cover page here. All right, so just a reminder, at the beginning of this class when we talked about what to do while you're waiting to do your demo, make sure you download that PDF document. It's attached to the GoToWebinar widget because that's gonna be very helpful. All right, what time is it? Went through that pretty quickly today. It's about 20 to 11. Let's take about 10 minutes or so and answer some questions. Let me get the question box up here. Anything marketing related, you can just shoot them over to me right now. And we're not going to take any live questions. This is a little different than our script classes where we have performances live and then we go back and forth. But I'm going to read the questions this time around. Tracy Geipel has a good one already. Is it advisable to send your demo to talent agencies in other states besides your own? Absolutely. I have a talent agent in Austin, Texas, one in Atlanta, one in New York, and one here in Minneapolis. You can absolutely send your demos to agents in other markets. Now, that said, your local agent isn't going to want you to go across the street to their competitor and be listed with them. That's usually going to be a no-no. They're going to want you to be exclusive with them locally. So typically you have to pick one talent agent per market. But anything outside of the state, free game. All right, sorry. Allergy. I'm either getting a cold or it's bad allergy day. Tracy's got another good question. I'm just going down the list here. And feel free to start typing them in, you guys, right now if you want. We'll spend about 10 minutes on this. Regarding email inquiries, is it preferable to use the first name or is it better to use like a Mr. or Mrs.? That's a very, very good question. It's not like you're writing to an insurance company to make a claim or anything like that. I mean, this is the voice acting industry and things, yes, they need to be professional, but I like things to be personable. So in my experience, Tracy, I think using a first name is absolutely fine. There's no reason to call your talent, a prospective talent agent, Mr. Jones. You can definitely use a first name for that. Sounds like a couple of you have lost signals. I mean, that could have been over here too. Everybody can still hear me okay, right? I think it'd be hilarious if I just spent 45 minutes talking to myself. But hey, it's recorded, right? It sounds like everything's good. A couple of you have lost connection, so let me know if you're back with me. Since demos are digital these days, this one's going to come from Megan Huffman. Since demos are digital these days, do you suggest cold emailing them to potential clients or making into a CD and mailing them? I think we finally have come to the day where you really don't mail CDs to people anymore. Once in a while, you might have that old school agency in the country that will want you to mail them a CD, but it's really rare. I would have said something completely different about 7-8 years ago. Because there were still plenty of talent agents around the country that were accepting CDs, but really it's more digital now and just being able to attach the MP3 to the form of the talent agency website or sending them an MP3. So that's a great question, Megan. And then, of course, back in my day, you saw the picture of the cassette. All we did was mail out cassettes. And that would have been in that would have been in 1989. Hang on a second, you guys. One sec. All right, thanks for that. And now a UPS delivery. So my dogs are very active today. Yep, in a nutshell, Megan, pretty much about 99% of the time we are doing all MP3. And by the way, don't send WAV files. Talent agents don't like them. Production companies don't like them. If you're doing marketing, WAV files take up a lot of space in your email. They're very large. I mean, we're talking like for example, if you sent them a WAV version of your demo, we're talking about something that's could be over like 50 megs. Second, just scrolling through a few questions here. And then say, part of the argument too, well, okay, well, I realize that WAV files are big, but what if I just send them a WeTransfer link or a link to a Dropbox? That's too much. Clients, agents, they don't have time to sit and download something from a Dropbox link. Just keep it easy and send them an MP3 of your demo. Dina Michelle, is it good or not so good to link in with many other voice actors? Are you talking as far as social media, Dina? If you can elaborate on that, I would really appreciate it. I'm about ready to put my dogs up for adoption. God, I love them to death, but they're driving me crazy today. This is a good one from Zach Krasny. If you have a 9 to 5 LinkedIn already, should you make a separate one for your VO work? Absolutely. If you've got one, it's kind of like websites. You should have one for every business. Don't throw everything into one like LinkedIn account. That's going to be confusing, especially if you're going to use that to market. Great question from Zach. All right. Wyatt, do you have examples of good voiceover websites? Google is your friend. Just look up voice actors. You'll find thousands of good websites on Google. Corey's got this is a great question from Corey. Well, how does recording with an out-of-market talent agency work? Well, it works a couple different ways. They will still book you in a recording studio in your area. I'm not sure anybody on this call has like an ISDN line, but that would be another way to record with an out-of-market talent agent. And some of them will just accept recordings from your home studio. I do that a lot with this agent that I have in Atlanta. I'll just record from here. I have a professionally equipped studio in my basement, so I'll record and send an MP3. And in fact, that's even working as an independent contractor. That's the way we work with clients, not only in this country but even overseas. We'll record from our home setup, and we'll send them an MP3, and we'll get paid via either credit, debit card, or PayPal or whatever. It's a great way to just be to work with anybody. And I always tell all of my talents who are just starting out, always think of yourself as a global voice actor. Don't worry about being a star in your local town. Yes, you should be focused on the corporations in your local town for getting some of that e-learning work I talked about. But think of yourself as a global voice actor. Remember, we now have the technology where you can work with anybody, not only in this country, but also overseas. Dina's got another good one. Do you recommend having business cards for networking at conferences? Absolutely. That is a must. If you're going to any type of meetup event, or maybe you're a member of your local chamber of commerce, which I would always recommend, by the way, because you're always meeting with other business owners that might be able to use your voice for a project. But your business card will have your name, phone number, and the link to your website where they can hear your demos. So yes, I think it's very important. A real quick story, and this is a great question, Dina. I was on a plane once to New York, and I sat next to a guy who owned an e-learning company. He wasn't the owner, but he was the one that did all the marketing. So yes, he was the one that hires the voice talent. And we had a great conversation. Super funny guy, and we just really hit it off. I gave him a business card. I said, well, I've been a voice actor for such and such years. If you guys ever need anybody, you know who to go to. And we had a few laughs and talked a lot of business. It was really a great conversation. Because normally I don't like to talk to anybody on a plane. I just put my Bose headphones on and I'm that guy. But I was in a chatty mood that day, and thank God, because it took a while, but about 5 or 6 months later, I get this phone call from this guy named John. I'm like, oh, this guy sounds really familiar. Right out of the gate, I was like, oh, I know this voice. And sure enough, it was the guy I met on the plane. And I got over $5,000 worth of work from him. Haven't heard from him for quite a while, but this was a connection that was made on a plane because I had my business cards. So whether it's even conferences or Chamber of Commerce events, meetup events, you never know where you're going to meet a potential voiceover client. You should always have your business cards on you. Think about the gig I just got from being on the plane. Derek Dysert, should agents whose protocol is sending a CD raise a red flag? Think ones that you send auditions by fax. Yeah, please send us your audition by fax. Not necessarily a red flag, Derek. I mean, definitely do some research on the talent agent. I mean, like I said, I would not be surprised if there were still a couple of them out there that are still old school, where they want you to mail a CD. Way back in the day, it kind of, honestly, it filtered out the people that weren't taking this seriously. Because a friend of mine, Eric, who's a talent agent, there's people that call his voicemail and they do all these goofy cartoon voices, hoping to get representation that way. It's unbelievable. And so back in the day, that was kind of a way to kind of filter out the people who weren't serious, because then they would actually have to put in the work to mail a professional CD. But definitely do plenty of research on the talent agencies. But I would not be surprised if there were a couple out there that still wanted a CD. Although it's very rare, it's definitely not impossible. Peter Ponce. Here's an issue that's pretty polarizing on Facebook. How important is a logo, and should it include a microphone? Yeah, it's almost become a cliche, the old headshot or selfie in front of the microphone, but you know what? It's what we do. And it's still the best way to illustrate what we do. And if you're a member of voiceover groups on Facebook or Reddit or whatever, yeah, it's easy to get sick of the old selfie in front of the microphone. My God, I get sick of my own selfie in front of the microphone. But again, it's the best way to really illustrate what we do. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to put that on a business card. You don't have to put a headshot on a business card if you don't want to. Your logo is fine. The right information, though, is the most important. Your name, phone number, email, the link to your website. Somebody gave me a business card once, and all they had is their name on it. I'm like, well, am I supposed to just Google your name, or are you just that much of a superstar that I know who you are? you know? Page, some type of a Fiverr. Okay. I found that some entrepreneur businesses hire a lot on Fiverr. Yikes. And have reached out to me and only want to pay $25 for a large script. I would turn around and run, Page. It's very insulting to our craft, in my opinion. I'm not a Fiverr fan at all. Um, I'm not a hater because I know the talents on there do charge more than that. So a lot of people in the industry just assume that people are on there making $5 for a voiceover recording, and that's not true. You can actually set your own rates on there. When I found that out a couple of years ago, I had a little better attitude towards it. I'm still not like, oh, hey, I'm a big fan. Still not really, but $25 is horrible. That's just insulting. I wouldn't do it. That's my spiel on that. All right, keep the questions going. We still have, what time is it? 10:53. We got plenty of time here, so let's keep them coming. These are great. I really appreciate it. Paige clarifies this is also family friends. I'm not on Fiverr or plan to be. Well, that's a good choice too. Yeah, and it's easy to take work for cheap because you think the client's going to come back to you with a bunch of regular work, but sometimes that's more of a gimmick on their end. I get that all the time. Hey, if you can do this for me for $50, I can guarantee we're going to send you a lot more work. And guess what? Guess how many other projects comes my way from that client? None. It's very rare that they're being very truthful about that. Michael, welcome back. Are there any negotiations that need to take place with a talent agent if you are also soliciting work in the area of your own? That's great. That's a great question. Talent agents do not care at all that you are also doing independent contractor work as long as there's no conflict of interest with the particular client. For example, any Minnesota Twins work, I have to go through my talent agent. I can't work as an independent contractor doing twin spots because my agency has that account. That's a great question, Michael. And the one thing that you should do up front, if there is even a hint that there might be a conflict of interest here, is to call your agent and ask them, hey, you know what, I just got an email from Subaru of America or, you know, Maury's Hyundai locally here, and they want to hire me for some work. Would that be okay with you? Is this a conflict of interest with your client list? It's a good way to clear it up immediately. Because if that is a big client of the agency's, it doesn't mean that you missed out on the gig. You just have to go through the agency, and your agent's going to be really appreciative that you let them know about this, because it would be easy to go behind their back, which would be horrible because you might get kicked off the roster. So, Michael, that's the best thing to do is just call your agent and say, hey, I got a call from Bell Mortgage down the street. Do you guys work with them? It's a good way to clear it up. Speaking of, I got another. What works for me well is when, for example, if I do get an email inquiry from a client that just has an enormous project, right? Let's say they want to send you, 25 e-learning modules a week, or it's just this huge, massive, project with all these variations on rates. And you know what? Send them to your agent. You still get the gig, but your talent agent will do all the rate negotiation and they'll set up everything for you. If it's a project that's just way too large and overwhelming, I do it every time. Don't try to do it on your own if it's just too big. All right, I'm just scrolling through. If I miss your question, by the way, I'm not doing it on purpose. There's so many of them here, which I appreciate the interaction here. Ron Montgomery, do companies like paying to pay via PayPal? I assume that's what he's saying here. Or should we have a more professional service? PayPal works great. I work with a lot of large companies that love PayPal. And other great services are Square, Invoice2go, QuickBooks, FreshBooks. There's so many different payment services out there. Wave is another one that some of you I know that are already using. The key is to really get in with a program like that keeps track of all your billing and works more like a CRM. PayPal actually does that. PayPal does a great job. They'll tell you what your income is at the end of every quarter. The reports that you can download on PayPal are tremendous. It all works really good for tax purposes too. So I don't think PayPal makes anybody sound unprofessional. Even large clients use them, large businesses, whatever works for you, you know? Jordan's got a great question here, Jordan Swaim. For those who want to eventually get into animation, would you recommend mastering commercial and narration first? I absolutely would, because that's where most of the opportunity is going to come. Big market right now for both commercial and narration. I don't want to say that animation isn't, it's not going to be as broad of a market as commercial or narration. Animation, little tougher nut to crack. That said, putting together a good animation demo is obviously going to be very important as well. For those of you who are in voiceover camp, check out the one I did for Steve McGrath, who's been in many of these classes. It's like a 2-minute character demo. It's absolutely killer. And I think he's going to do well in animation work. All right. Ron, what do you mean fictitious business name? I'm not sure when I said that. So if you could reiterate, I could have been talking about something else, but just let me know what you mean and I'll be happy to get to that. Sarah Smart, as we're currently in the process of getting her demo going. When asking a prospective client questions about their business or product, does that show I came into the conversation unprepared? Good question. Or are there certain questions to avoid? I don't think it sounds unprepared at all. I think you know what it does? It makes you sound incredibly interested in what they're doing. Now one thing you can do, Sarah, and everybody else in the class, is you can do your research, go onto their website, learn a little bit about them, and that's how you can come up with questions for them. Hey, I noticed that when you guys started in 2013 that you were doing A, B, C, or D. That also tells them that you spent time researching their company, and they're going to be very impressed by that. So, great question. Rob Monson, the dogs aren't loud. Not distracting at all. Oh, God. It sounds much louder on this end, Rob. Trust me, but I appreciate you saying that. Bob, stay away from pay to play. You know what? I'm not a big pay to play. For those of you that aren't familiar with the term pay to play, there's voiceover websites out there like Voice123, Badalgo. I think Voice Realm is another one where you pay like an annual membership to audition for projects that go through their site. I'm not, some pro friends of mine absolutely hate them because maybe the rates are a little bit low. But it's still, there's still a shot that you could get 3 or 4 regular clients. Now, I don't believe in spending sunrise to sunset doing nothing but auditioning on like Voice123. I don't think that's the best use of your time, but maybe spending an hour doing it would be fine. I still think you're going to do the best if you market directly to talent agents, production companies, the in-house studios at these corporations, e-learning, explainer video companies. If you spend more time doing that, you're going to get a lot more clients. I'm a firm believer of that. Dina's got another good one here. I'm trying to make connections on LinkedIn. Lots of other voice actors pop up for me. Okay, now I know what you mean, Dina. Are those people I should be connecting with as well? Well, I don't think it hurts to, because I mean, photographers hang out with other photographers. People who are in real estate are friends with other real estate agents. It's just that's a part of social media. These aren't the people that you're necessarily going to get work from. Although people do refer, we do refer each other in the industry. So what might not be a good project for me, maybe I'll pass it over to Bob or Rob. So the community does work really well that way. But Dina, another thing that you can try to connect with is producers, talent agents, audiovisual directors, anybody who works for a production company on LinkedIn. Oh my God, there's 100 of them on there, hundreds and thousands of them. Megan's got a good question. And thank you for the good questions, you guys. I mean, these classes are hit or miss. Some, especially in the Q&A section, some weeks where people aren't typing anything, and then I have to ramble on for another 20 minutes, or people are typing really good questions, and you guys are typing really good questions today. I really appreciate it. In fact, I don't even mind going over time if you don't mind. Can you guys hang out for a few more minutes? Is that cool? What are some examples of events that could provide good face-to-face networking opportunities? Try to find meetup events. Go to meetup.com. I mean, most of this stuff is done via Facebook these days, but meetup.com is still around. You can meet up with other creative people in your state, your city. Again, Chamber of Commerce meetings. If you want to join your Chamber of Commerce, you can start your own meetup. It's easy to put like an event page together via Facebook. Great way to get in front of other people. And second part of Megan's question, as a working voiceover talent, how frequently do you travel for your clients? Rarely. Long gone are the days where I have to fly to New York to cut a spot. That might have happened 15 years ago. But again, we're equipped now with the technology and the software to be able to record from our homes and send the recording to a client anywhere in the country. Occasionally, you might see an audition on a Voice123 or maybe over, hey, this is New York-based talent only. If you're not in New York, you got to fly here to do the spot. Hey, if it's a $5,000 gig, why not? So it does happen once in a while, but most of the time we can still do all of our recording from the comfort of our own home. Another part to that answer, Megan, is sometimes when you go on vacation, you should let your agent know that there are studios within your hotel. For example, um, I've done a few gigs where I've been in New York and there's been some work that has come down the pipe. And obviously, I'm not at home and then I can't record downtown Minneapolis via my local agent, but I will tell my agent, hey, you know what? There's a recording studio literally 3 blocks away right here in Midtown. If anything happens, uh, I can book the studio and do it there. And sure enough, it's happened a couple of times. So even if you're on vacation, it's up to you. You could still make yourself semi available. Great question. And I also understand wanting to just shut things down for a couple weeks. I mean, taking that mental leave of absence is so important to get refreshed and re-energized. It's good to take a break every now and then. Dina, is it important to have a logo? I think logos are important. I have my website, but don't necessarily have a catchy phrase or logo. Well, I would pick the logo over the catchy phrase. It's good for branding purposes, and also, obviously it makes a business card look that much better. The catchy phrase, I think, you could live without. It doesn't hurt, but you could live without it. All right. Let's do what time is it here? 5 after 11. Let's do a last call for any questions. And if I did not get to your questions, my sincere apologies. Zach, how soon into regular booking should you look into getting tax help? I would say if you start getting a few clients who are coming to you on a regular basis and the income is starting to really build up, that's when you should get in touch with a CPA, and you can ask the questions about, should I be LLC, S corp? If they're already helping you with your taxes in general, you definitely want to talk to somebody about that for sure. But again, if you're in your first year or two and you're just kind of getting a little bit of work here and there, being a sole proprietor is probably the way to go. But again, it never hurt. It doesn't mean you have to hire the CPA, but it never hurts to meet with one or talk with one on the phone about all this. Corey, I'm assuming conflict of interest does not exist in the independent work, correct? Not necessarily. Let's say you're doing a couple of voiceover jobs for a car dealership. They may not want you to go, like let's say you're doing, you signed on to do a bunch of spots for Audi. They may not want you to go across the street and do commercials for Toyota. So there could be some exclusivity there, even if you're working as an independent contractor. But this is stuff that if the client doesn't come out and talk to you about it right away, it's a good question to ask them about. All right, last call for any questions. By the way, this particular class is being recorded, so if you came in late, you can review it in the private YouTube channel link. And those of you that don't have it, it is vogroupclasses.com. I will write it in the chat box here. This is another website you should definitely bookmark because it doesn't have all of them, but it's got probably over 100 previously recorded group classes on there. Plus there's some helpful tutorials too. Groupclasses.com. There it is. You can click on it, bookmark it. This class will be loaded in that channel on Monday. Wyatt's got another question. If you book a gig, do you have enough time to record if you work a full-time job? This is a good question already. I can see where this is going. And then record the gig at night or early in the morning. Yeah, especially if you're going to work as an independent contractor, Wyatt. Generally, even if it's a short project, the client will give you a few days to do it. Now, auto is a little bit different because sometimes you're dealing with, Memorial weekend sales, furniture stores too, where they might want something relatively quickly within about 24 hours, but they will definitely let you know. And yeah, if you're working as an independent contractor, they don't care when you record it, as long as it's done well and you get it to them in time. As a matter of fact, I always try to over-deliver by turning in the project early. Like, hey, I'll get this to you by Thursday morning at the latest. And then sure enough, Wednesday afternoon, they have it. Now, where you occasionally might run into an issue, especially if you have a full-time gig, is the talent agency game. Because sometimes those types of sessions will record during the day, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes they'll do a Saturday session, which is great, or an evening session, but occasionally they will want like a 1 o'clock or a 10 a.m. time. I don't know and if you have a full-time job, if you're flexible or could take a vacation day or a long lunch break. There's plenty of people who are on talent agency rosters that also have full-time jobs. Somehow they are able to make it work, but occasionally you might run into a little bit of a roadblock with the whole time thing. But as an independent contractor, very rare. 'Cause clients are very flexible. They don't care when you record it as long as it's done well and you get it to them on time. All right, that is going to do it for today. If I didn't get to all the questions, my apologies. Obviously this won't be the last marketing class we ever do. Plus, many of us are working with you one-on-one, either me, Rob, Trish, or Jan. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. What else was I going to say here? I don't really remember, but thank you for putting up with the dog barking and everything out, my sniffling and everything like that. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to everybody soon. Thanks so much. Have a good one.